Join me on the path to becoming a full-time artist. But before I take you out to the journey ahead, let me take y'all back to where it all begun.
Knowing we chose forever.
Let me just say, early on, my childhood dream was to be a pro athlete, to be in the NFL, to be Pacific.
Knowing we chose forever. God, I wrote you a letter. You said to follow the vision. I know that it's different, but it's better. Everything still got a season. I cannot be here forever. As long as I'm still praising God, living and breathing, I'll write you a letter. And I see where I'm going, taking a step, living in truth, and I'm doing my best. Know I got motion, talking my chest, put it in work, but ain't breaking a sweat. Bust down watch, but it's not a protect. See what I love, so I gotta protect. Done with the past, I'ma put it to rest. Knowing we choose forever. God, I wrote you a letter. You said to follow the vision. I know that it's different, but it's better. Everything still got a season. I cannot be here forever. As long as I'm still praising God, living and breathing, I'll write you a letter. Back to the top, give me lit. Touch the God so I know what it is. Do it, drama.
Now I feel like that was a lot of people's childhood dream, to be in the NFL. Like that was like growing up in the hood, that was like all you pretty much knew was sports. Like you just gotta make it out through sports. Like you just have to make it out. And with football, like I was putting in so much work on football. Like I was training crazy hard. Through middle school, through high school, that was like, I gotta get my mom out the hood. I gotta buy her a house, like, cause you was always seeing these things. You was always watching the draft, and you was always seeing like, that's how we knew pretty much. Like it was just football, or it was just sports in general. Football, basketball, like, just sports. Like you just gotta make it out. And I was just training extremely hard. Like I was going, I would say in middle school, that's when it all kind of like started. I was like, I gotta put in work. Like I gotta work harder than everyone. I was investing all my money into football. Like literally all the money I was getting from my parents, investing into football. Let's say all them summers, I wasn't going out pretty much like being a kid doing all this. Like I was at the field training half of the time. More than half of the time I was at the field training. I was walking like 2, 3, 4 miles just to go back to my school during the summer, just to train, like carrying with a weight vest on my back. I believe it was like 25-pound weight vest or whatever it was. And then I had the weight vest, and I had like a speed ladder, and I had a speed parachute, and I had like cones. Like I was like dedicated. Like I was determined to make it to the league. And then in high school, it just kind of carried over. I just continued just working at it. Like it was like a whole bunch of people laughing at me, like just making fun of me. Like I was just working extremely hard. Like on all my social medias, that's all I was saying. Like I'm making it to the league, I'm making it to the league. Boom, when I make it to the league, that's what I'm gonna do. When I make it to the league, that's what I'm gonna do. But then like when I kind of look back at it now, like now that I'm older, and I was like, that dream was like someone else's dream, like per se. That was like my parents' dream, or like that wasn't my actual dream. It was just like something that I was just swarmed a part of. Like it wasn't nothing that I wanted to like really actually be. And I feel like that's why I didn't become it. So in middle school, you know how you got to pick your classes. So I was in football, and football started probably like a week before school. Like when you started like actually like practicing or just getting into like the routine of playing football, because the first week or the second week you had like a scrimmage or a game, depending on middle school or high school. So in middle school, you had to pick your schedule. And normally everybody was saying like, oh, it's a free class. I couldn't get in gym or like that whole like the gym and activity, because I was in football. So football was on my schedule, so I couldn't get in like none of that. So I had to pick like music or gym or some along those lines, like choir, some along those lines. And I picked art. Everybody's like, get art. It's a free 100. All you gotta do is show up. Boom, you ain't gotta do nothing, just show up, free 100. Boom, so I picked art. But it turns out that the teacher was bad. Trying to tell you, just like beautiful. Like I was like, I'm glad I joined this class. Like, and then it was like a whole bunch of football players in that class, because we was all like, we gonna pick it. Boom, and our schedule was kind of lined up. We always in that class. So class was pretty crazy. And it was like that for like 2 years. Like, no offense, but the art teachers are normally old. And this was a younger lady. Like, at that point, I was just like ready to learn. Like, I was playing around a little bit, but I wasn't doing nothing crazy. Like, I was like, no, I'm finna learn something. The key to that art class was she was putting us through so many like mediums. Like, we was painting, we was using art pastel, we was using charcoal, we was using graphite, we was using watercolor, we was using clay. Like, she was putting us through so many mediums, and she was teaching us so many techniques without me even knowing at the time. You had to pick out a picture. And then, of course, me, I love animals. I picked out a tiger. Me, normally, when it came to drawing or when it came to doing anything where I had to choose, I was going to either pick sports or I was going to pick animals. No doubt. Like, it was going to be either one of those two because I love both of them. So I picked a tiger, and she gave us a blank paper, and then she printed out the picture of the tiger or the picture of whatever that you want to draw. And then she cut the tiger in half, or she told us to cut it in half. I don't remember. But she told us to cut it in half and told us to glue it on one side of the paper. And then, since I was right-handed, I glued it on the left side so I could draw on the right side. But then she told us to make a grid over the paper. Like, lines going down and lines going to the side. Lines going horizontal and lines going vertical. Boom, and then we had to number them and letter them. So it's basically a grid on the whole paper. Then also on the white side of the paper. So then she told us to basically copy what's on the left side over to the right side. As simple as that. Just copy. Just if you see like some dots or if you see the nose, just copy it. Just basically mirror it over to the other side. So that was the plan. But I was like a little bit stuck and kind of confused. I knew what she was talking about, but it was kind of like hard for me. I don't know. But I was calling her over like, hey, I need help. So she would come over. She would put her hand on top of my hand and she would just draw out the pattern. She was like, see, look, this is what you do. She would draw out one square because it was all like, since we put lines on it, we made a grid basically and it was like squares. She was like, this is what you do. And then she would draw it out and then she would just leave. And then I used to be like super frustrated. Like, I'm like, she didn't teach me nothing. Like, she just drew it for me. Like, if that was the point, like, why is she even in class? Like, I was just so frustrated and like irritated. I'm like, boom. But then I would just try myself and then I would slowly get the hang of it. And then one thing I didn't know, but one huge thing that I learned is that I'm a visual learner. I don't know if she knew that or not, but pretty sure young kids most kind of learn better visually. I was a visual learner. So as she started to do that, like I started to just copy her and just see where it go. Then I used to call over like, hey, am I doing this right? She was like, yeah, you're doing great. And I used to call over like, hey, am I doing this right? Hey, you doing great. Like, and I just kept going with it. Just kept each square, each row just kind of mimicking. And when it was like the end drawing, like I was just so amazed. I was like, I'm an artist, I can draw. Like, I was just so amazed. I took it back home to my mom. I was like, you gotta see this, like, look this, I drew it. Now, honestly, I felt like she drew most of the drawing because she was just helping me so much. But it was just like a confidence booster. It's like, oh, I can draw. And then looking back at it now, I'm like, I can do way better on that drawing. And I did way better. As you see my art, but it was like, right then and there, it was like, I was like so amazed. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this looked just like it's just perfect. And I was taking pictures of it. I was like, no, my woman gotta see this. Like, I'm gonna hold this drawing forever. Like, boom. But then I was kind of upset on the other end because I felt like she drew the whole drawing. But then I was still kind of flexing it. They was like, you didn't draw that. Then I was like, yeah, she drew most of it. But learning, in the process of learning art, all these things would just make sense so much easier. Because it was basically like they was in my subconscious. It's kind of crazy. I didn't get a scholarship, but I went to a junior college. But when I went to that junior college, my main focus of going to junior college was to be a walk-on and then get some scholarships and go to a D1 college, of course. Everybody wanted to go D1. Go D1 and then make it to the NFL, right? So I went to college. My love for football kind of went out the window. Started drawing a little bit, and then one day my roommate came in, and he was like, "Man, you can't draw. Like, that's terrible. You over there drawing stick figures." He was basically like joking, but like me, I'm competitive. I took that to heart, so I started learning how to draw. Like I was like, "Nah, it's time now." So I started drawing more and more. I started looking up YouTube videos, and I started copying, and they started teaching me how to draw, and I just started going with it, bloop, bloop, bloop. And then my first thing I started to draw was like animals. And I'm gonna pop up some of those drawings. Like I just started ripping at it. And then I dropped out. So I'm almost about done with the drawing in the back of a toucan. But to finish, I think I'm gonna move the studio over to the living room. When I dropped out of college and I came back from college, I didn't know I was gonna drop out yet. I thought I was gonna maybe go back, but when I came back, I was drawing on line paper like I was in college, like before I left. And then I left, then I came back home and I was still drawing a little bit, doodling here and there, just on line paper. Then I asked my mom one day, I was like, "Can you buy me a sketchbook? Like, whenever you go to the dollar store, you go to any grocery store, can you pick me up a sketchbook? Just any sketchbook, I don't care." And then I had some color pencils laying around. She picked me up a sketchbook. She brought me that sketchbook. It was this one right here. Bam. Picked me up this sketchbook. And it was like a TikTok trend. This was kind of like when TikTok first started coming out. It started becoming big. And it was like TikTok trend. It was like a hot thermal challenge. Like, it was like where you draw bodies. Like you'll draw someone's body or somebody's face and like a heat thermal, not hot thermal, heat thermal. And it was like you drawing with many different colors. And I started off drawing that, and I started drawing that on TikTok. I started to gain a little bit of traction. Like some of my videos started to go like semi-viral a little bit. And then I was like, okay, so I can draw a little bit. So I just started coloring that, started doing that a little bit. And then I was drawing every day. Like I was drawing multiple times a day in that sketchbook. And I asked her to buy me another one because I was like, I ain't got no more paper in the other one. So she bought me another one. And this is when I started to jump into like a little bit of graphite. Then I start like drawing. This is when my drawing started to pick up and I actually started to focus on it and just like lock in and just like, and this is why football is like a key part in this like story, my whole journey as an artist, because all the things that I was doing in football, I just transferred to art. Boom, just like that. Like all them long nights of just grinding out in football, I just literally put all that energy into art. I started investing my money into art. I started to give her a couple of dollars to buy me some sketchbooks and just pencils and stuff. And then I would just grind day and night, every day. Opened my business, opened up a website. I started selling prints, originals. Like my business was booming, right? It was just booming, just going, just like success. I was just making money. I didn't have a job at the time. Just art was just my full-time job. Selling prints, selling originals consistently. Like this just kept going. And then after like the world started to open back up, that's when my business kind of slowed down. And my old tricks stopped working. And then I didn't pick up no new tricks. So probably like a couple years later, now we here. We still drawing, of course. Like my art has grown in a sense, like it has gotten better and grown. It's just like the other side, like the business side of this whole thing that kind of took a downfall. But with this episode, now we're on a journey to pick it back up because it's very much possible and we finna make it happen.